Hey folks, Robin Robbins here, founder of technologymarketingtoolkit.com, where we work with MSPs, MSSPs, VARs, IT service companies to get more and better clients to run more profitable businesses. And I'm really excited right now to talk to somebody I consider not only a good friend, a good client, good member of our community, which is Alper. He's the CEO of Absolute Logic, which is a managed services business, a very successful one based in Connecticut. But he also is the CEO and founder of CyberGuard360, which is a service for MSPs so they can deliver top shelf, top level cybersecurity solutions to their end customers. So Al, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so, you know, some people might not know who you are. I know that's really hard for me to believe because you are like super megawatt famous. But if somebody didn't know, maybe CyberGuard's more, but like give just a quick thumbnail who you are and what you do.
Sure. So if you haven't seen me on the post office wall, I own an MSP in Connecticut, as Robin said. We've been around since '91. And actually out of that MSP, because we were very, very successful in our cybersecurity practice and selling cybersecurity solutions, that actually gave birth to CyberGuard360 about 3.5, 4 years ago. And since then, we have just been rocketing to the top. So CyberGuard360, we've built platforms that deliver cybersecurity solutions for the MSP community, originally built for my MSP business, Absolute Logic. But because all of our colleagues were like, how are you selling so much business? We saw there was a there. And so we turned it into a channel-only business, spun it off as a separate company. There's actually two separate companies, completely different employees. I'm actually the only one that steps over the wall between them.
Okay, great. Now, you and I were talking and we got into kind of an interesting conversation, which is why I wanted to do this video. And you said that dark web monitoring doesn't matter anymore. And everybody in the channel hears about the dark web, We write articles about it. We do webinars on it. We have a lot of people now sell dark web monitoring. So what do you mean by dark web doesn't matter anymore?
That's a great question. So, and I get that a lot. So dark web, as an MSP, you need to have dark web as an arrow in your quiver. So I'm not implying you don't need to have it as one of your tools, but it's one of your tools. It's like antivirus or anything else. It doesn't matter in the eyes of your clients, your prospects or the consumer. To them, they make a certain assumption about the fact that MSPs are protecting them, that they're taking care of them. And the headlines, in fact, that we see, whether it's in the news, in the newspapers, in the news clips, what we're seeing in Facebook, God, our own Facebook group, cybersecurity for MSPs to MSSPs, we post headlines every single day. And it has, in fact, made the prospect and client community numb to breaches. And as a result of that, the fact that you have dark web is no longer a banner headline for MSPs because it's assumed that you're taking care of them. Now, that's not to say it doesn't matter what you do with the data, but they're making an assumption that you're taking care of them to begin with. So saying you have dark web is like saying you breathe. And that's why it really kind of doesn't matter that you have it. What matters is what you do with that data. So for instance, what we're doing in CyberGuard360 is we're presenting up what we believe is the best data out there, and we do side-by-side comparisons with our competitors routinely and find more breaches. Do clients care that our partners find more data than their competitors? No, they don't care. That's why it doesn't really matter in that regard, unless, of course, they're using a competing product and then another MSP is trying to wedge them out. They use our platform. They say, hey, we found this breach. And they go back to their incumbent and say, hey, how come you didn't find this breach? So it does matter to that degree, but only to the extent that you want to make sure that you're not being going to be wedged out by a competing MSP.
Well,
where it matters, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you think CEOs at this point, I'm talking like your average Joe CEO, like the attorney, the veterinary clinic, the dentist. I mean, do you think they're all very familiar with dark web and they're kind of over it? Do you really see, is that what you're seeing?
I do think they're over it. I think there is an expectation that dark web is now just an average part of what their provider's arsenal includes. So they expect you to have antivirus, they expect you to have spam filtering, and they expect you to have dark web. And if you don't, if that's not part of your tool suite, you can bet your bottom dollar that the MSP next door who's looking to prospect to your client is going to show them a dark web report. And you better sure as hell have had a dark web report as part and parcel of your QBRs, as part and parcel of the things you do normally to service your client base. And if you're not doing that, I promise you, you're going to be wedged out.
Okay. So you use that dark web, like CyberGuard MSPs and you and your own MSP. So you're going into those quarterly business reviews. You're saying, here's what we found on the dark web, but are you also then doing alerts? So if you find a new breach, you're immediately letting your client know, hey, we found a new breach. You got to change your password. Is that what you're doing?
We do. So our PII Guard 360 platform. So CyberGuard 360 is the company. PII Guard 360 is our platform for what we call securing the human endpoint. And in that platform is where we have dark web. And you can turn monitoring on and off. You can turn it on and off for you. You can turn it on and off for your client. One of the nice things about the platform is it's a fully white labeled platform all the way down to the client. So when they get a dark web alert, it's coming from our partners to the client in the partner's name. Okay, and it's going to the client's manager from the client's company in the client's name. So it's fully white labeled all the way down to the client level. That notwithstanding, again, alerting is to some degree part and parcel of what should be in the arsenal. What we're moving towards on PII Guard, and really where dark web is going to matter. And a lot of MSPs aren't there yet. So to be fair, we're going through a whole hurdle of educating them why these things are important. Account takeover services, vendor compliance services, HR, all of these areas of the company should be leveraging the data of dark web to more securely take care of their clients. So using account takeover as an example, when an alert pops up on the dark web whose credentials match that of what's on a domain, account takeover services should automate the locking down of the user that was just breached. And if you're doing it right, you're now at the enterprise level of security. And we're now empowering our smaller MSPs, our mid-market MSPs with ATO services. Vendor compliance services is another one. When you're looking at vertical markets that have an obligation to protect PII, personally identifiable information, and their obligation. So if you look at New York Shield, if you look at California CCPA, if you look at GDPR and LGPD, and I could run down the list, your clients have an obligation to protect their customer data, not just with what they control, but what their vendors control and what their vendors control. Yeah. And to the extent that your clients have that obligation, your clients need to know whether or not their vendors have been breached. And so using PII Guard's dark web as a vendor compliance tool, you're able to help your clients protect their customers from their vendors.
Okay. So you're basically saying at this point, if you're an MSP or, just MSSP, of course, but an MSP, if you're saying, hey, we've got dark web, I mean, it's no longer, it's kind of like a restaurant saying we've got good food. It's kind of like, that's exactly what that's what you should have doing. But let me ask you this, because this is something I've been thinking about. You are going to be on a panel at our cybersecurity livecast event coming up. And, we have this MSSP and we've got MSP, but it seems to me that there really isn't any more, the blurring of the lines. Like, I don't think you can just be an MSP these days, because if you're managing a client's network and the data that's on there, I don't think you can just say, well, we're not cybersecurity focused. We're just going to put antivirus on your machines, your endpoints, and call it a day. It seems to me like it's becoming where MSPs are going to be negligent if they're not adopting a lot of these advanced cybersecurity protocols in their own business when they're talking to their clients. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes and no, right? So it's obviously an obligation of an MSP who is looking to protect their clients, again, to make sure that that their tool suite includes a variety of next generation, let's call them security products that protect them. Those are sort of baseline. Everybody below that baseline. When I talk about the baseline, I talk about things like, yes, dark web monitoring is one of them. Next gen antivirus is another one. Simple antivirus just doesn't cut it anymore. You need a next gen platform like Intercept X or Cylance, or it doesn't particularly matter what your poison is. You need spam filtering. I mean, all the what's in the quiver of a standard MSP. The delta between MSP and MSSP is really the service level that you're providing them. So if you're actually providing SOC level services, if you're doing incident response, if you're doing things that are true MSSP's purview, then you can call yourself an MSP. Being an MSP these days has a baseline of security, and if you're not carrying that baseline, then you're just a schmuck in a truck. No disrespect to MSPs out there, but you're just not cutting it. It's just you're just a guy that's fixing computers at this point, and that's just not the way this market is these days. There's an expectation from in my MSP. There's an expectation from our clients that we're doing a minimum level of security and protection that ensures that they are on guard. And frankly, if you look at I look at the insurance that we carry and the exclusions, there's something called a deck page or a declarations page that basically outlines everything that they'll cover and what they won't if you don't do something. Okay. And the bar that's been set on those deck pages basically says if you're calling yourself an MSP that does security, you better be doing this or they're not going to backstop you on a suit. And so they really need to be careful with what they say they do, what they say they don't do, and what tools they have in their tool belt to protect their clients.
Yeah. And I know you have a lot of great, I think, webinars and data and white papers and information on this. So if somebody was watching this and they wanted to kind of see more on what we're talking about, they're an MSP and they want to know what is the bar now that I need to set, or if they want to move into MSSP, I know, where would they go to get, like, you've got a ton of stuff, I think, on your website, right? So where would they go to get more information? Sure.
So you can go to PIIGuard360.com. That's PIIGuard360.com. That's the website for our PII Guard platform. Tons of information out there. There's a couple of places where you can go. I do a bi-weekly webinar series called Scaling Your Security Practice. We have a ton of resources and stats on what data is out there in the dark web, what success stories some of our partners are having selling security. We have one partner, they've completely revamped their practice. They were pure MSP, focusing on the small to mid-sized market in their area, reasonably dense area, not in New York City if you would, so that's not terribly dense right now. Dense area where they were just a regular MSP, they were throwing off $1 million and change a year. They have completely shifted since becoming a partner to a security practice, and they are closing business every single week because what they're doing is they're focusing on what we call the sensory stack, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on that. It's in my packaging and pricing cybersecurity solutions webinar that we did a couple of weeks ago, and I strongly encourage everybody to take a look at that, even if you're not using our platform. Right. Take a look at that video because it takes you to a different mindset relative to how you need to be thinking about cybersecurity, how you need to be thinking about packaging and pricing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge topic. Exactly. And it's always moving. So even if you think you got it or you know it, you need to constantly be looking for that information out there and seeing what's out there. So this has been great, Al. I really appreciate you guys, and anyone watching this, I would highly encourage you to go to Al's website, go to the CyberGuard site and check out his information, because he's really one of the people that I know knows what he's talking about when it comes to just even the legal side, but how to package it and price it and so forth. So thanks for doing the video, Al. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody who paid attention to this.
All right, very cool. Thanks.
Thanks.